Io. Io is known as the volcanic moon. This guy's pretty ridiculous. It's the most geologically active object in the entire solar system. It looks to be an orange-yellow, kind of, with black and some cratering. Not much, but some. Voyager actually when it flew by, it saw active volcanoes. And you can see the volcanic plume coming off of the surface, both in the big picture, and you can zoom in and see it. Kind of incredible. So they think the orange and yellow are probably most likely from sulfur. And they don't have a lot of craters. They do have some, but they don't have a lot because it's being filled in with lava. Also, what's fun about this is it has a thin atmosphere, but it's made out of sulfur dioxide. So this yellow-orange moon is basically giant volcanoes spewing stuff into space and has a thin layer of sulfur dioxide as its atmosphere. Smells lovely there. Here's another picture of it. You can see the yellow, a little bit of orange, some black. Those are kind of the craters. So, given that there's so many volcanoes, we actually think there's 80 active volcanoes here. And that's kind of a low estimate. The surface of the moon is going to change really fast. Because as soon as something erupts, the lava will coat the surface changes. Right? So they think the whole surface is actually changing pretty quickly. The largest volcano is actually the size of Maryland. It's a pretty big volcano. Not awesome. I mean, Olympus Mons was the size of Texas, so not the biggest by any stretch. But the energy that this volcano is spewing out is more of Earth's volcanoes put together. The lava is a little bit cooler. It can be up to 2,000 degrees Kelvin, which is what ours is approximately on Earth. But 650 to 900 degrees Kelvin. Still kind of hot. You wouldn't really want to go walking on that. What's interesting is that this moon is so small. I mean, it's still a large moon, but it's small, so you would think that all of the heat would go away and it would have been frozen all the way through and not geologically active. So what's going on here? Well, they actually think that it's being pulled. It's being pulled between Jupiter and Europa, one of the other moons we'll get to. And so it's basically sitting there acting like a stress ball. It's wobbling along, and there's this bulge that points towards Jupiter at all times. Well, as the moon goes around, the bulge will move around the moon, thus making it kind of like a stress ball. So I said all the energy of the volcanoes. Yeah. So Io in total has energy worth 100 million megawatts from the volcanoes. That's 5 times all of the consumption of energy on Earth. The other fun thing about Io, it has a very thin, solid crust. Well, if it's acting like a stress ball, it does have a solid crust. However, it's going to be very thin. It's going to be very soft. And the inside of Io is going to be very soft because it's constantly being squeezed. Right? And again, if you think about a stress ball, and it's got, that crust around the edge, right? That's got that skin or whatever that you squeeze through. And then the inside is very squishy. That's what it's like on Io.
NASA's New Horizons spacecraft captured some explosive images of a volcanic eruption on Io. The mission took the amazing images in 2007 when it traveled past Jupiter, and NASA just released them now. Jupiter's third largest moon and the most volcanically active object in the solar system, Io is constantly being tugged between the vast gravity of Jupiter and the smaller, more consistent pulls of neighboring moons. This tug-of-war stretches Io as it orbits around the gas giant, generating friction and intense heat in Io's interior, causing over 400 active volcanoes that blanket its surface in colorful compounds of sulfur. Several of Io's volcanoes can even produce plumes that climb as high as 300 miles above the moon's surface.
In March 1979, the Voyager 1 space probe sent the first detailed view of Jupiter's tiny moon, Io. A world once thought of as cold and dead.
And they saw something really weird. They saw this arc next to the moon. And it looked almost as if like there was another moon behind it.
And we scratched our heads and said, well, what could that be? Everybody knows that Io is dead, boring, uninteresting. And then people realized, oh my God, it's a volcanic eruption.
We found that it's covered with volcanoes. It is tremendously geologically active. There are volcanoes erupting all the time. And what they're erupting is a lot of sulfur, and it gets very hot. And sulfur, when it changes temperature, changes color. It can be red or orange or yellow or black. And so these pictures of the face of Io make it look like a pizza covered with different kinds of cheese and olives where the little black spots are.
Io is not dead. It has over 400 active volcanoes. The largest, Pele, erupts from a gigantic lava lake. It reaches nearly 400 kilometers into space.
If we could stand on the edge of that lava lake and watch that plume shooting off into the blackness of space, that would be an incredible sight.
Pele's eruptions are so huge because Io is so small. There's nothing to withhold the lava, virtually no atmosphere and very little gravity. The volcanoes on Earth are tiny compared to Io's vast eruptions.